Welcome to Pivot Parenting, where we help parents of teens overcome regret and disappointment to find peace and connection in every situation. I'm Heather Frazier, your parenting expert. Journey with me to discover effective parenting tips, improve family relationships, and build a brighter future for your kids. Buckle up, things are about to get better. Hello, my friend. Welcome to today's episode. Last week, we talked about substance abuse, and today we are talking about cutting and other methods of self-harm. So throughout the episode, I am going to interchangeably use self-harm and cutting. I recognize that this can also apply to burning, poisoning, scratching, interfering with wound healing, any kind of self-hurting is what we're talking about today. But for simplicity's sake, I will simply use one term generally for all of them. Now, these two episodes, substance abuse and self-harm today, are sister episodes because they are closely related. They're both forms of self-destruction, and they have some overlap in why our kids are doing it and how we can best support them. So if you haven't listened to last week's, I invite you to finish this episode and then just let your app automatically start up last week's episode for you. You're going to gain valuable complementary information in both because I teach helpful concepts around both that can be applied in either situation for the most part. Before I begin, my friend, if you are struggling with self-harm in your home, I am sorry. I know firsthand how devastating it is and how soul-wrenching it is and how it consumes your every thought. I know how you feel like a fool and a failure, and the shame is deep and drowning. I want to talk about it because you aren't alone, and I promise there is hope to be had. Grab my hand, hang on, I promise there's hope. One way that we can find hope is by looking at facts and evidence and information. And so I want to give you the most current psychological, medical information on self-harm. And they're fairly conclusive on several points. And so I just want to give you these bullet points so that you can better understand the current psychology on why our kids are doing this, because it is rampant, my friend. First and foremost, cutting is a means to find emotional relief. It's physical pain mitigating emotional pain. People do this as a form of emotional regulation. It is generally not suicidal. In fact, many self-harmers perceive it as a desire to live because it's seeking emotional control over themselves. It is generally an act of self-preservation. They need to cope in order to stay alive. And so while sometimes it can be suicidal, that is the exception. The rule is that it is a desire to live. There are two kinds of self-harm. One that is planned and tightly controlled. How deep, with what object, when and where to best hide what they are doing, how to prevent infection and scarring. It's a buildup of emotion, and they have it dialed in really tightly. The second is the opposite, a total loss of self-control, a last resort effort to establish control through an unplanned release of pain, not premeditated, but in the moment, spontaneous. This type of self-harm is often triggered by an event, like an argument. Participants associated in this second kind of self-harm have greater risk and greater damage to themselves. Self-harm is often seen as a punishment to oneself. They deserve it. Or that is what they tell themselves. Obviously, you and I know they absolutely do not. Nobody deserves that. But that is how they feel in their headspace. They're punishing themselves. Self-harm is very often a sign of trauma. Something has happened in their life that has caused their emotions to go out of control. And I'm going to talk more on this, but I do not want you to start beating yourself up that you traumatized your child, that you allowed your child to be traumatized. None of that. But cutting is a sign of trauma. It can also be an addiction. Kind of like how we get addicted to other big dopamine hits or other huge emotional releases. Like gambling, for an example. It's something that we do that feels really good in the moment. And it can become an addiction because of that huge emotional hit. There are 4 internal motives: a wish to die or to live, a feeling of lost control, escaping from the situation, and when the situation is unbearable. And then there's one external motive: to show somebody how hopeless they are feeling. This is not manipulation or attention seeking. It is a cry for help. And then there are 4 problems that psychologists typically associate with self-harm. One is psychiatric. They have something diagnosable: loneliness, trauma, and a feeling of rejection. These are the 4 reasons that modern professionals believe cause our kids to self-harm. Now, last week's episode goes more into the emotional aspect of why we sabotage ourselves. And I talk about the one main reason all of these reasons branch out of, and it's sensations that our kids are seeking: self-control, relief, being seen and loved. And so if you want more on that one main umbrella reason that all the other reasons fall into, listen to last week's. And then the last thing that current publications say is that your child doesn't actually want to self-harm. They have so much shame around it, and that's why they hide it. But they do it because it is so effective. It works. And they want your help to stop, but they fear your reaction and your judgment. Hi there. I just want to pause and let you know if you are struggling to make sense of your teen's behaviors, emotions are running wild, and you're looking to turn things around to have the family you dreamed of while rocking them to sleep, I would love to talk to you. I want to give you a special, powerful gift. 30 minutes with me, my friend. You'll walk away with more confidence, clarity, and understanding of what the issue is and your next best step in resolving any situation you bring to me. It's completely free. I love families and want to help yours be wildly happy and successful. Book this call by visiting my website, heatherfraser.com. Remember, Fraser is spelled with a Z-I in the middle. And don't worry, the link is also in the show notes. I look forward to meeting and helping you. All right, my friend, now that you've got a better understanding of their reasons and how it makes sense to them, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of how you can help them. We're going to talk about practical strategies for approaching this very sensitive subject with your teen, how to foster open communication when emotions are so difficult, to best provide the help that they need to heal, so that you, my friend, can create a supportive environment that promotes your teen's emotional well-being, and you're going to gain confidence that you haven't failed and your teen's future isn't doomed. Are you ready? I want to talk about one teenager, and this is what they said. They said, "I'd never seen my dad cry until the day that I told him. So that's when I thought, oh no, I've really let him down. I've really hurt him, and it's all my fault." I don't know if my parents ever thought for one second that the worse I was feeling, the stupider things I'm going to do, like cutting. Essentially, this son linked the guilt he felt around his dad being so upset with an increased risk of self-harm. No, I'm not saying this so that you can be like, oh, sweet, I'm so excited. It's totally normal and okay to be devastated. It would be so strange if you weren't. But there's two things that parents need to address to mitigate the potential of this negatively impacting their already emotionally unstable teenager. Number one, make sure to remind them over and over and over again that your feelings are your choice and your responsibility and not determined by your child. It makes sense that you would be sad that someone you love is suffering. We would want to be sad. That's appropriate. This is called interdependence or not being codependent. It's a really important skill that all humans need to develop, especially parents. Super important for kids who take responsibility for their parents' upset and choose to punish themselves and bury their struggles deeper to understand. It is okay to show emotion, my friend. Just reiterate that you take accountability, that you're not blaming your child, that it's not their fault or their problem to fix. Let them know other emotions that you're feeling that motivate them to continue to be open with you. One of my most favorite things to tell my child when they disclose something that they're worried I will be upset with is to honor their bravery. Whenever my kid discloses to me, I tell them how brave they are and how proud of them I am. It is huge for a teen to tell their parents their shameful, dirty little secrets. Now, maybe you're saying, oh, my teen didn't tell me, I found out. That's okay. If they're willing to discuss or even acknowledge that it's happening, that is still brave. Tell them about your love for them, your willingness to support them, your trust, understanding, solidarity, compassion, admiration, whatever positive emotions feel true to you that shows them you are more than just sad. You are sad and proud of them. You are sad and admire their courage. You are sad and have compassion for them. Tell them why you feel these more supportive emotions. Self-harm is buried in darkness and shame. Secrecy is a huge part of cutting. You need to tell and continue to remind your teen that they aren't responsible for your sadness, that your goal is to bring it all to the light of day to help it heal. We need to normalize struggle in all its forms, including self-harm. Ask questions if they're willing to talk. Let them know that you're going to help them get professional help. Self-harm is one of those things that you just need to go get help. Don't wait it out. Don't think that they're going to outgrow it. They need professional help. If they blame you, don't get defensive. Ask them to explain. Agree with what's true or could be true from their perspective. Get help. For them especially, probably for you. We don't want to put up any walls. This isn't about you, even if they blame you and say it's all your fault. Your focus needs to be on helping them. That's it. Support and listen and love. And as a little caveat, oftentimes with past medical protocol, they say to put in an action plan, especially with suicidal ideation. Next time you want to harm yourself, promise to tell somebody or like whatever. Those have been proven to be very ineffective. So don't worry about putting in some kind of action place into plan or have any kind of contract that they sign to agree to not self-harm. That's just going to frustrate and disappoint everyone. No contracts. Just, hey, if you're feeling this way, what are some options that you think you could consider? That's the action plan that you want to have. Okay, number 2, if you're angry or frustrated that this is happening, let's talk. Because my friend, those are secondary emotions. They're secondary to being brokenhearted and sad, and they are not helpful to you or your teen. You want to stay in the sad, even though it feels more vulnerable and scary and it is more painful. I also discussed this in last week's episode if you want more depth on that, but we need to talk. This is doing your work. You need support, especially if you're going towards anger, frustration, blame. I know that it can feel so shameful to learn that your child is in so much pain they are harming themselves. But much like their pain, you suffer more and longer when you bury it under anger and frustration or denial. Get someone to help you bring your wounds into the light for healing. If it's not me that you feel comfortable with, that's totally cool. There are other coaches, therapists, professionals out there that can help you. If you think that you could trust me and we could work on that together, I offer a free 30-minute consult, no strings attached. Let's talk and see if it's a good fit. When you do these two things, again, number one, make sure to remind them over and over that your feelings are not their job to fix. And then number two, keep your feelings in the sadness and the heartache, not in the blame, anger, frustration, because that's going to keep you stuck for longer. When you do these two things, you're separating out essentially your work and theirs. Healing is most efficient when they are done interdependently, mostly separate. Now, you can talk about your healing together. You can talk about your journey. You can interplay all that you want, but you're taking accountability for your feelings and you're helping your child to do the same. This is the protocol for approaching the subject with your teen. This is how you do it. And this is how you foster open communication when emotions are so difficult to best provide the help that they need to heal. By making sure you're owning your feelings, and when they are trying to take on accountability for those, you're not colluding in that kind of behavior. And then you're staying in your clean pain and you're both getting the support that you need to work it through. When this is accomplished, then you can work on prevention. And prevention should focus on encouraging alternative methods for managing distress, understanding distress, problem solving, and help seeking before thoughts of self-harm lead to actually self-harming. So essentially, it's education around emotions and tools. And I want to reiterate, this is best done with a professional, at least one to help support your child. They could potentially need medication, therapy, all the things. Get them in front of some experts. This is not something you want to wait out or think that they will grow out of. And just to be completely transparent, this is beyond my scope of practice. I do not work with teens who are self-harming. They need a clinical psychologist, therapist, physicians to best help them. I can definitely help you locate the resources that you need. I love being part of a team supporting the parent while their child is dealing with the things that they need to deal with. And when parents have created this ecosystem of support for their teen to get the best help possible, that is how you create an environment that promotes your teen's emotional well-being. And when parents do this, they gain the confidence that they haven't failed, that everything could work out. It is gaining the skills to mitigate self-harm, and that's a group effort that can provide the peace and comfort that you and your family need. You and your child's support team should be teaching you specific skills like healthy emotional regulation tools and communication tools, and this is the means to which you find hope and confidence. Again, I love being part of these support teams. I am here for you. Go to heatherfraser.com to book a consult if you think that working together could be a possibility. I wish you and your family the very best. Go back and listen to last week's episode as well. If you haven't done that, there's a lot of helpful information there. And I will talk to you next week, my friend.